Alright, a little bit of a different video to what I normally make, but this caught my attention recently and actually really surprised me. So the Gloomfire Bow, which is a tier 90 weapon with a really powerful and potentially meta-defining special attack, only costs 100 mil. Not to mention, we are likely on the verge of having the ranged combat style be changed forever. It's going to be made more accessible, simpler to use, and for the majority of the players in the game, it's going to be one of the most powerful and simplest combat styles in the game. If you want more information on that, please check out my recent ranged beta testing video. So 100 million GP to get a weapon that is this good, it seems pretty insane to me. And clearly this Gloomfire bow is being slept on. So let me just show you a couple of cool features that make this bow a must-have gear upgrade for all rangers going into the new year. First off, like I mentioned, this bow is a tier 90 weapon with exactly the same stats as the Noxious Longbow. That said, it's coming in at a fraction of the cost, at about 1/3 of the price of a Nox bow, and it has damage boosting benefits that the Nox bow does not have and cannot compete with, including a modified auto attack and an insane special attack. So let's look at the Gloomfire Bow's double auto attack feature first. The auto attack of this bow will actually shoot 2 arrows at once instead of just one. That means that instantly at the start of every single fight, you can begin with a big boost of damage and a fair boost of extra adrenaline. Typically auto attacks give 3% adrenaline, but this double auto attack gives 6%, which also stacks with the invigorating perk. Maybe that seems pretty niche and a little bit complicated, and maybe with the introduction of the beta changes, that might only work with the basic attack ability, but in any scenario, this is just free damage without even having to think about it. Next up, let's look at the special attack of the Gloomfire Bow. Now, this special attack is called Shadowfall, and it's similar to the Dark Bow that a lot of us are already familiar with it, in that it does multiple really strong hits and costs a fair bit of adrenaline. This will have the same exact adrenaline cost as the Dark Bow. The Dark Bow does 2 really big hits, whereas the Gloomfire Bow does 2 medium-sized hits and a third extra big hit. Ultimately, it does more damage than the Dark Bow, and it doesn't require an Essence of Finality amulet. So you can see that my Dark Bow EOF does about 14.1k damage, and my Gloomfire spec does about 15.5k damage. That might not seem like a huge difference, but it's just simply more powerful for the same adrenaline cost, and it's not tied to a 200 million GP amulet. You're gonna get all of this tied into the physical bow for just 100 million GP. To give this bow a little bit of proper testing as well, I'm going to take it to a few bosses with very, very basic gear. No perks, no augmentations, nothing fancy. My whole gear setup here cost about 20 million GP in armor and 100 million GP for the actual bow. So for basically the price of one bond, you can get into high level ranged. I will actually make one gear exception here, and I'll wear a Luck of the Dwarves because I'm superstitious, but stat wise, a free ring like the Asylum Surgeon's ring would actually be superior. So I'll take the Gloomfire to Nex, Araxxor, Fentraken, Raksha, and Kerapac. Alright, so at Nex here, given the bow shot, and again you can see I have no fancy perks or any augments on any of my gear really. Just going to start off the fight here with a little anticipate, big snipe, maybe little tendrils, and a rapid fire. A little snapshot to end the phase, and then we'll move on to the minion, clear him with bleeds. We're going to be saving the weapon spec for blood phase. I think that's going to be super powerful for Nex. So moving on to phase 2 here. Use my big deadshot ability. Walk Nex down the middle path. And there we go, that's phase 2 done. So we'll clear the minion. Maybe we'll get a couple bleeds to come back off cooldown here. And now time for the infamous blood phase. So we'll wait for Nex to open up her arms. Get a big snipe. 1 special attack. 2 special attack. And just about finish the blood phase there. There we go. Not too bad. 2 specs and a couple of basics there. Get rid of this minion with a couple of bleeds. Alright. Use a little Vit Pot for the Ice Prison. And how about another special attack here to get through Ice Phase nice and quick. Does really good damage. Alright, in final phase, we'll use that Dead Shot. We'll use all of our multi-hitting abilities. So we'll use our Bleeds. We'll use our Snapshot and our Rapid Fire. And we'll even try and build up for one more weapon spec. Yeah, it does a lot of damage, even through the damage mitigation that she has in this final phase. So that weapon spec just really, really powerful. Really a big fan of that. So basic gear, no augments, little 245 next solo, really not too shabby at all. Alright, so I'm gonna go instantly all the way to the end of the tunnel, trigger that phase 3. And then I'll head back towards Araxxor, get off a big Death Swiftness, watch that free double auto attack come out right away, 6% adrenaline, and we'll just try and do our best damage before any spiders come out. Look at that. Just got through our snapshot and we already did like 20k damage. Gonna look out for the special spider spawn, get rid of him, turn my attention to that mirror back, and then I'll get back on Araxxor. Maybe try and use Bombardment and Corruption Blast to try and clear some of the spiders passively. But I'll just focus on using my thresholds, my snapshot and rapid fire again here. And towards the end of this, I'll build up and try and get off a few weapon specs. So we got another set of spider minions coming out. Gonna watch out for the special one. We got a pulsing there. And then I'll go and use my first special attack on Araxxor. Big 12k hit there, plus the other 2 hits. That's really powerful. I'll eat up a little bit since I PK'd myself on the web shield there. Just turn my attention to any potential spider minions that are around. May end up getting one more set of minions, which will be an instant special spider on the 3rd set. But I mean, we're doing really good damage. Cannot do this with a Nox bow. Cannot do this with a decimation. Honestly, really, really pleasant experience so far. And we'll just finish up the phase pretty much with this rapid fire. If we didn't get cocooned, of course. Alright, so we'll finish off the phase with a snapshot now instead. And there we go. About 238 into the final phase. Really not too bad at all. Build a little bit of extra adrenaline with a defensive there. Just eat a few extra jellyfish. And I can go right away for a Death Swiftness at the start of P4 as well. Just using some basic abilities build up. I'll be aware of the spiders. We'll just turn my attention to those guys in case we get a mirror back, and we do. Alright, so we'll get rid of those guys. Back on Araxxor. Start using my thresholds. And I'll save this big spec right before 25k HP. Not too big a hit there. Only saw a 6k. Still, there we go. That's our Araxxor with the tier 90 set. No augments, no perks, nothing fancy. Tier 95 prayer in 338 for 400k. Really not too bad. Next up's going to be a bit of a simple one. I'm going to go to Fentraken, but this one can make you a surprising amount of money. The unique ring drop that this guy drops, I think it's called the Heart of the Seer. I believe it's worth like 90 million GP right now. And you can even get into a full AFK setup where you bring something like insulated rubber boots, throw on a fancy Revo bar, and this guy becomes full AFK. But we'll just go with our Death Swiftness, do our thresholds, get off a weapon spec once we have the adrenaline. Big 2k, 2k, 10k hit there, so about 15k damage overall. Get back into our second set of thresholds during the Death Swiftness. might be able to get one last weapon spec off as well. So I mean, overall, that becomes a really simple pattern. You do your death swiftness, you do one set of thresholds, one weapon spec, build up again to a second set of thresholds, and a second weapon spec, and there you go. That's an easy peasy Fentraken kill. Next up, how about some Raksha? Everyone loves Raksha, so let's go and get this started. I'll start right away with a little death swiftness and APOT. And we'll just keep that same thing. We'll just use our first set of thresholds here. So go for snapshot and rapid fire. Then I'll use a few basic abilities after that to build up some adrenaline. And a weapon spec. Check out the Gloomfire spec here. Cool animation, 2k, 3k, 11k. Big damage from that one. And then we'll just build back up our adrenaline here. Use a second set of thresholds, so another snapshot and rapid fire. Now, I actually didn't think about bringing anything with me to clear the shadow anima pool, so that was a little bit of an oversight. Still, I'm sure we'll make it work. About one more Gloomfire spec in the transition. Get a little Rico there.
The shadow grows thicker.
And I think we'll just manually clear this stuff. Won't be pretty, but it'll work.
Your thoughts betray you.
Alright, we got those all manually cleared out. Again, not pretty, but it works. And how about we go for another swiftness and APOT here. Get off our first set of thresholds. Try and use a weapon spec in that swiftness. Most of it is going to go to waste here, unfortunately. Still, I feel like it's doing pretty good damage. Like, I'm not having too difficult a time. Can use some thresholds without a swiftness.
Do not let him absorb the shadow.
That does good damage. Turn my attention to the little minion there. Couple bleeds on him. And then how about a couple of weapon specs on Raksha?
Your thoughts betray you.
Well, the rapid fire should be ending the phase relatively shortly here. One more big weapon spec. And there we go. Into P4, about 4 minutes. Not amazing, but still perfectly serviceable. At tier 90, like, I have full accuracy. I have that weapon spec as an extra tool. I'm not using fancy arrows. I was using things like when arrows or fool arrows. You know, that becomes even more of an advantage there. Not to mention augments and perks and whatnot. Or even a Ripper Demon familiar. The more benefits you can stack, of course, the easier these kills become, but just using the absolute basics, the absolute bare bones tier 90 for 100 million GP, really can't complain. And then we'll use a weapon spec to get through pretty much the entirety of that shield HP, which is really good. Go around collecting the shadow anima. While I'm doing that, I'll let a little dead shot go off. And then we'll build back up towards the swiftness. Get that swift, get APOT, press the action button into the thresholds, and now we're going to be seeing some big, big numbers. Definitely want to see that weapon spec. So I'm going to build up my adrenaline here. Big weapon spec. 21k, yeah, that's huge. That is really huge. See if we can get off another one of those weapon specs. There we go. 5k, 3k, 18k, so about 25k damage from that spec. And might be able to finish it off before the second shield wall here. So just close it out with some thresholds. And there it is, little sub 6.
subside.
Yeah, so I mean, I probably wouldn't recommend doing Raksha with really low level gear like this.
Well
You probably want a
done.
few more upgrades. You want at
I
least
will
basic
return
perks,
Raksha
maybe
to
a
his
proper familiar,
confinement.
and some proper arrows. But again, perfectly serviceable there. So since I mentioned bringing actual arrows, let's try out Kerapac with the big arrows. See how that goes. Drink a little dose of weapon poison.
Always you. Why
We'll start off with a swiftness and APOC. And here we'll just want to try and use all of our rapid hitting abilities, so things like rapid fire, things like snapshot, piercing shot. Try and build up as many of these big arrow stacks as possible. I'll also use that weapon spec, which should give me 3 more big arrow stacks. And this poison damage is just going to escalate as we continue with this boss fight.
Break beneath me.
So it won't be super powerful in the first phase, but by the time we get to phase 2 or 3, it should be pretty nuts. Phase 1, we complete that pretty much in the duration of our swiftness.
The threads of time.
Here I'll go ahead and hit the action button.
The time
Get 1 spec, try and get 2 specs off in the duration of this time warp here. That's going to give me all my adrenaline back at the end of this.
Right through you.
Where I can get yet another weapon spec. That's 3 weapon specs to start the phase. Continuing to stack up these evolving toxin stacks. And then just setting up to have a really monstrous phase 3 and 4.
You will break beneath me.
Maybe we'll go for a little dead shot action here. Alright, closing off that phase, not too bad. We'll go for the action button, get a Death Witness. I'll just try and use any threshold that we can before the time warp ends. Alright, unfortunately didn't get anything off there.
I'll tear right through you.
But we get all of our adrenaline back, so we can use things like big weapon spec, big threshold. We got 14k damage from that. Still building up all of these evolving toxin stacks. We get 1 more weapon spec off. Finishes off the P3 nice and easy. And then into the P4. How about we do the same thing? Use that time warp. Use that weapon spec.
Of Armadillo.
And then when we get our adrenaline refunded, we'll finish it off with yet another weapon spec. 20k HP left to go. Weapon spec does the majority of that. Nice and easy.
Just let me die. Let me
So,
die.
sub 3 minutes for a normal mode Kerapac kill. Again, perfectly serviceable. Super nice and easy with the power of that tier 90, with the power of that weapon spec, the power of the big arrows. Again, a budget setup like this gets you into high-level range PvM. What more can you ask for? All right, and just for the sake of demonstrating that it's not some big merch attempt or something, I'll search Gloomfire in my bank. I have just the 1 physical Gloomfire Bow. I do have 1 in my EOF for my personal use. I'll show that there's really not too much in my GE history there. So yeah, just that 1 Gloomfire Bow for 100 mil. A couple of random odds and ends, just collectible stuff really for my own sake. And then we'll hop over to World 2, head over to the little Secret Santa area, claim a gift for myself, why not? Thank you for the Dragon Stones, we'll definitely take that. And I am actually going to donate this Gloomfire Bow here, so good luck whoever wins this. Let me know in the comments if you did actually pull this bow. That would be kind of funny to see. You're about to donate a high-value item. Are you sure you wish to continue? Absolutely. Yep. Good luck. And there you have it. That was my little demonstration on the power of this budget Gloomfire Bow. It's definitely a super slept-on piece of ranged gear. and it's an easy recommendation for me to give to anyone who's trying to get into the ranged combat style, especially in anticipation of the ranged beta changes. This is a no-brainer to pick up the Gloomfire Bow. Let me know what you thought of this video, and if you're going to pick up a Gloomfire Bow for yourself, or if you already have one, and whether you like it or not. Thanks very much for watching, and see you next time. Take care.